Hi everybody, thank you for watching. Quickly, do subscribe and do hit the like button, please, and obviously enjoy the video. If you've ever driven on the road between Villlagers and Andover in Hampshire, you'll have probably noticed a pub called the Weyhill Fair. Now, a bit before that, there is a long white wall, and these days it says the Fairground Craft and Design Centre. But if you didn't know what was behind it, it would seem a fairly insignificant wall. But this spot used to be so much more, and was well known throughout the country. There are many a fair across the UK, but this one, the Weyhill one, was the biggest. Now, it was first written about in 1225, but quite probably used a lot longer than before that. Just the first time it was actually written down on paper was then. The fair was a huge event, a meeting place for one and all, local and traveller, and as they lasted days, there was plenty of time for people to trade, be entertained, and even settle judicial disputes. If you wanted sheep or hops, this was the place to be. It was the biggest fair across all for these two items, but it did sell other things as well. Livestock in general was big business, obviously, because that's what a lot of the trade was about. And including the sheep, you had horses and cows and pigs and also cheese. Now, Weyhill is on the crossroads of many an old trackway from the Romans and beyond, and drovers' tracks too, so it was ideally placed to hold a fair for folks around. All sorts went on at the fair. Legend has it that in 1832, a gentleman, if you can call him that, sold his wife for a Newfoundland dog and 20 shillings. Apparently, this inspired Thomas Hardy to have a character in one of his books who did just this. But there are so many different stories out there, so many rumours, so many legends, that who knows what's true. There are obviously some facts as well as the fiction. Not sure about that one. Another huge part of the fair was the pleasure fair. It was a massive attraction for one and all. Rich and poor, gentry and farmers all gathered together, and they loved it. It included what you would normally expect. Entertainers of many types, such as contortionists and acrobats, rides and sideshows, boxing booths and bioscopes, and even circuses with wild animals. Which leads me to a little lion tale, which I have done a few before in one of my previous videos, so do have a look. George Ballard was attending the fair with his magnificent menagerie, as he did many a show as he toured the south of England between 1807 and 1830. He was always travelled with his ferocious beasts in cages and then in shuttered wagons. Then these were all drawn when he got to the event into a square, and that made his showing booth. Now, this particular story started on the 20th of October 1816. George Ballard and his troupe were on their way back from the Weyhill Fair off towards Salisbury. Now, they'd stopped at a rest point at Winterslow Cut, which some people in the local area here will know that used to be the Pheasant Hotel and Public House. Now, this particular place is now private residence, and I think it's called the Pheasantry. Very nice looking places they are too, but it used to be Winterslow Hut. And being on the main road between Andover and Salisbury, it was the ideal stopping place. This time, however, they clashed with a mail train going from Exeter to London. You wouldn't think that'd be a problem, would you? It's just them stopping, having their break, and the mail coach stopping, having their break / deliveries. Well, it just coincided this time round. The most ferocious lioness happened to break out of her cage and wagon at this exact moment. What are the chances of that? This exact moment, the mail coach arriving there and the lioness escaping. Now, there were two passengers that were in the mail coach. They legged it, ran into the hut and hid, basically, in an upstairs room, I believe. Just left the coachman and the guard to, well, not really know what to do. Obviously, there was a lot of shouting involved, and Ballard and his keepers ran out of the hut to try and help, and the guard was being shouted at to shoot the lioness dead. Now, Ballard pleaded for the lioness's life, saying it cost £500, and normally she wasn't so ferocious. She's quite docile. His exact words were, "tame as a rabbit, if not irritated." Now, Ballard's own dog, obviously used to the animals, managed to ward off the lioness, and she was recaptured. The horses were exchanged on the mail train. Mail train? I keep saying mail train. The horses were exchanged on the mail coach, and they went on their way. There were so many stories in the papers afterwards, and obviously with a massive gusto of hype, some even stating the Lioness was still at large. Obviously sensationalising headlines, that's what sells papers, isn't it? Things haven't really changed. Ballard was also not stupid. He managed to use this to his advantage, and the next year when he came along, that's what he put in his advertising. Ballard's grand collection of wild beasts, among which are the noble Lioness from Africa, which attacked the horse in a mail coach at Winterslow Hut near Salisbury in October last. But it was skirted from its prey by a large mastiff dog. These three animals may now be seen together in perfect amity. Under that little bit that you did just see, he actually also stated that don't panic, the Lioness would not normally have escaped. It was due to somebody who was trying to plunder and had obviously opened the cage enough so she could get out. It wouldn't normally be that easy. He had a surveyor check the carriages, and he also paid for the horse very honourably that got attacked by his Lioness. Now, unfortunately for the Weyhill Fair, even though it was one of the biggest ever, it went into decline, and by 1900 less and less people were turning up. Some of the land was already sold off. Auctions continued until the 1950s, but less and less people were starting to turn up to those as well. Now, the pub I spoke about earlier, the Weyhill Fair, actually used to be called the Sun Inn. Now, the Weyhill Fair obviously taking its name from, well, the Weyhill Fair. Now, I read that it got taken over, I think last October, by new tenants. So it'd be great to see them reopen after the COVID-19 shizzle going on, and it being a spectacular inn once again. Behind that unobtrusive white wall is a mass array of artisan shops and a cafe as well. Obviously not really open now again, but I'll put the link in the bottom, so if anybody wants to go and visit at some point, go along when they're open. Now, this spectacular, huge, humongous fair has been assigned to the depths of history. Or has it? I found out a few years ago they've actually tried to do a few more Michaelmas fairs there. Maybe, just maybe, this tradition might be kept alive. Just quickly, there's a fab gentleman that wrote a book on the Weyhill Fair. He's obviously covered absolutely everything compared to my short snippet I've done here, because if I'd done all that, this would be a very long video. I'll put his information down below, so if you're interested in any more of the tales and the information about it, then have a look there.